All right, the first thing we're going to do here is talk about some basics with concavity and increasing and decreasing functions. So just to start off at the beginning for definitions, a function's increasing if its graph goes up from left to right. It's called decreasing if the graph goes down. From left to right. That may seem really, I don't know, easy and simple to look at, but as we get into graphs a little bit more, you'll recognize sometimes a little bit more difficult to maybe state the interval on which it's increasing or decreasing. So I think you probably know this intuitively, but when we go and actually look at graphs, finding those intervals sometimes is a little bit more difficult. So then number 2, it talks about the idea of concave up, and 3 is concave down. Basically, when we talk about concavity, it's a lot easier to describe it with a picture. So in these boxes down here, I'm going to draw a picture for you. So concave down basically is anything that has this sort of tendency or this sort of tendency to it. Okay, that's a shape that's concave down. And I just wrote that in the concave up section, so we'll move it over here. So these are two functions that are concave down. The first one, here I'll use the highlighter. This one is decreasing because as we go from left to right, it's going down in value, or at least the outputs are going down in value. And then this function would actually be increasing because it's going up in value. But both of them are concave down. And so then, likewise, if you take a look at a graph of concave up functions, this graph would be concave up. And so with this one, okay, both of those are concave up. But again, this one is increasing, whereas this one is decreasing. And even more importantly, you might have a situation where you have a graph that's concave up the whole time, but there are parts of it, so we'll pretend this is a parabola. There are parts of it that are decreasing, and there's parts of it that are increasing. All right, so you just have to pay attention to the fact that sometimes we have concave up and concave down within the same graph, even if it's decreasing the whole time, or we might have a function that's concave up the whole time, but it has a decreasing part and an increasing part. So we'll pay attention to that. For instance, here's one that is actually going to be different concavities, but is always decreasing. So something that looks like this. Oh, I didn't want that to be a straight line. So something like this. Okay. Right at this point right here, it breaks in concavity. It's concave up right here. It's concave down right here. And so we have, it's decreasing the whole time because it goes, if we look at the whole thing overall, it's going from here always continually down, but the concavity is different. So again, you kind of have to pay attention to all those different things. So what we're going to do is look first at just a word problem that kind of suggests some concavity, and we're going to describe that concavity. So for this example, it says to read the description of the function. We're going to decide whether the function's increasing or decreasing, and we're also going to talk about the concavity of the graph. So it says when a new product is introduced, the number of people who use the product increases slowly at first, and then the rate of increase is faster as more people learn about the product. Eventually, the rate of increase slows down again when most people who are interested in the product are already using it. So if we were to graph that situation, it would look something kind of like this. New products introduced. Okay, that would be at time 0. The number of people who use the product increases slowly at first and then more quickly over time until we've kind of hit a saturation of the market, and then it slows down again. All right, so this is what that function would look like. What is going on here as far as increasing and decreasing? You can pause the video and think about that for a second. All right, well, the function is actually always increasing the whole time. Nothing's changing. They never told us that the product sold less at one point than it did another time, or at a rate that's lower than another time. It says the rate of increase slows down, but it's still increasing. Now the concavity of this is a different story. This is concave up till right about there, and then over here it's concave down. So there's concave up when it's going from a slow increase to a large increase, and then it's concave down when it's going from a large increase to a slow increase. So next thing we're going to do is get a little bit more practical with this. So that's what the next video will be about.